when you're angry, logic goes out the window. And sometimes you need someone to just talk you down a little bit. Couldn't help but just look sideways at my TV when she was like, our divorce ain't even final yet, and he's already, sleeping with Keisha. And it's like, yeah, and you're telling this to the man you've been sleeping with all season, and your divorce ain't final yet. So what are we saying here? So. Hey, what's going on, folks? Another episode of Just My Opinion with Ryan, and we are rapping about The Chi. One thing about The Chi, I don't know, I do feel like they're kind of moved away from what it was initially about. And maybe it's just this season, maybe I'm all over the place, you let me know, but I really feel like this time, seems like it's more relationship focused or relationship heavy, as opposed of how it definitely had, dealings with relationships and stuff when it first came on, but also more so dealt with, I don't know, like crime and, like old school gangsters versus like new school gangsters and just different stuff like that. Had redemption stories like with Ronnie, and of course just like real wild stuff like the unfortunate kidnapping or abduction of Keisha. I don't know, but maybe it's just this season and I'm tripping. But yeah, this season, I guess especially, definitely seems more relationship driven, which I'm not mad at. It was just a minor observation, and I wonder if that's a direction they'll be moving forward to from here on out. Just more so relationship driven, if more than anything. But this episode of The Chi. And that's one thing I also give credit with. The way some of these episodes start is just an attention grabber. And this episode was no different. This episode, we just see like a montage of all the couples, having sex, making love, whatever you want to call it. Like you got Emmett and Keisha. You got Trig and Fatima. Who else? Jada and Darnell. You got Robert and Tiff. It was just like a collage of all of them just doing their thing. Well, that's one thing that I definitely do. That's one thing I definitely also enjoy. You kind of get like a little conversation amongst each couple shortly afterwards. For example, with Darnell and Jada, Darnell wants to take things to the next level, and we clearly get a summary of how that next level looked completely different for the both of them. Darnell wants to move in, whether he moves in with her or vice versa. And Jada is like, if you move in, we're trying to get married. And of course, that conversation leaves Darnell frozen. And, little bumping of the heads, but I really commend Jada. I really feel like she took the higher road here. Instead of just, even the fact that he wasn't committing right then and there about the whole marriage conversation. She did say, look, I don't want us to do what we always do and just break up because we don't get along about something. And then with that being said, Darnell gave her the challenge that, hey, why don't you take me on a date this time? So, let's do some, let's show some reciprocity, if you will. So I thought that was cool. I thought it was fair, and Jada was more than up for the challenge. So cool. Another conversation we get into, Tiff, for whatever reason, wants, Robert's weed connect, and to her surprise, he trusts her to the point where he's like, all right, cool, that's whatever. And Iman Shopper, he's been bodying the role ever since he's been on The Chi. He's been, I've been impressed with his acting. Not all former athletes can just go from that type of arena to acting, and I feel like he's doing a decent job. I mean, granted, I'm not saying he should be like the next Denzel Washington or something like that, but definitely more than impressed with his ability to do these, for his role on The Chi, if nothing else. And of course, Fatima and Trig had that conversation, where Fatima is letting it be known that, she will not be looked at as a mistress, and that's how she's kind of feeling. And so Trig is kind of at that fork in the road, like, hey, you keep going down this political path, things could get messy. That's all I'm gonna say. But I think one of the main storylines within this, of course, is Emmett and Keisha. They're both clearly feeling each other, and Keisha was telling Emmett, yeah, you really got to tell. We got to tell Tiff at some point. And of course, he's reluctant, but as the episode progresses, we see that he comes to his senses about that. Another relationship that I think is still cute. I'm enjoying Kev and Simone, I think is her name. I'm enjoying that relationship. The reason why I like that is because you got these two people who kind of have like these, come from like two different, I guess for lack of a better word, two different worlds, right? Like she's all into astrology and into the moons and stars. She kind of thinks kind of eccentric, or maybe not like the typical girl that Kevin is used to. And and she even brought Kevin to her world with the whole cosplay thing. And I think it was cool to see the vice versa. It was like, even though she's not into gaming at all, she still wanted to go with him to this underground gaming club to support Kev and his whole thing. And like I said, I think that's very dope that, if you're nice with it like that, you could definitely make a lot of money playing video games if you're, one of the top video game players or whatever the case is. Definitely wasn't at least for that fighting game, definitely wasn't the best night for Kev, but I'm definitely down to see how the rest of this goes. But I still like Kevin because he is learning just other avenues. Like I said, he learned about the whole cosplay world, and then in this episode we see his mind getting open to like cryptocurrency and stuff like that. Like he wasn't aware of any of that type of stuff, but I like the fact that he's learning and just feels like he's having an open mind to just other things throughout the world. So I'm liking that Kevin is kind of soaking this stuff up like a sponge. And it disappoints me to say it, man. I was giving him his flowers this whole season, but I don't know, Shad might be on some dumb shit, man. Like we see Shad checking his phone, and I guess whatever social media site he's on his phone, he's getting a lot of messages from like various women telling him, just telling him sweet things. I don't know if it was his birthday or something, which I kind of doubt, because I feel like that episode would have highlighted it. But they're just, I guess shooting a shot or whatever the case is. So I'm like, damn, Shad about to drop the church money when it comes to relationships. Like he had a good thing going, and I don't know, looks like he's flirting with messing that up. We'll see how that goes. One of the things I have noticed, at least outside of Emmett having a gun jammed in his face, this whole season, for the most part, seems to be without, black trauma. They're not highlighting a lot of black trauma in this episode. But the one storyline that definitely still, I think, was the biggest one to me. Well, two of them that stood out to me was, I'll go with the smaller one first out of the two big ones. But Trig, Trig and his whole campaign. I do think that people are kind of, maybe see a little bit of cracks in that relationship armor. For example, Poppy's dad, talked to him one-on-one. It was like, man, I hope this isn't a show, man. I hope that you and old girl are for real, and y'all not just putting on some type of show. And of course that's eating away at Trig, right? And you can even see it after they left the church. Like he was easily annoyed about how this isn't real and stuff like that. So I think that tension in that storyline is raising, and I feel like at some point is definitely going to that bubble is going to burst in a negative way, for Trig. And also, like I really, you see, for whatever reason he went with shouting out Shad instead of his mom Peaches. Like he was going to, make his mother the main talking point when it came to turning things around for the better. And, he didn't feel comfortable talking about, his mom's struggle with alcohol, and, to each his own. I mean, that is a personal, vulnerable story to share, especially if you yourself don't even know if your mom is really going to get clean completely from that alcohol. And of course, at the end of the episode, we see that Peaches was actually so disappointed in what Trig shared that she left the Trinity house, and she leaves that note saying, I don't know how my story is going to end, but at least I want the version for you guys to just remember me as being clean or whatnot. So I don't know, man. I took that as a bad sign that maybe something in her, something about that speech that Trig didn't say might be the cause of her relapse, and I don't know. But that definitely was sad. And it was just a backtrack a little bit with that storyline. I did appreciate how at least Jake, came to his mom about the baby, because other than that, the only adult that knew about it was Jemma's father. So he at least felt comfortable enough to go to Peaches, his mom, about it. And I don't know, I thought that was like a nice heartfelt moment between Peaches and Jake. This is an estranged mother that you haven't seen for years. She comes back into your life, and something about her presence, you still see that motherly presence in her, despite whatever struggles you had in the past. And you felt nurtured enough, or you felt that comfortable to like let Peaches know. And Peaches, I thought, gave like some great advice, man. I thought it was just a nice, heartwarming scene. Lets Jake know that he'll be a better father than what Peaches was to him and Trig. And even with that smaller storyline within there, it seems as if Jake and Jemma are going to keep the baby. And we got a pair of young parents on a soon-to-be young parents on our hands. So there's that. But I think the biggest storyline for this was definitely, mind blank for a minute. It was definitely Emmett finally having enough courage to talk to Tiff about his feelings for Keisha. And of course, sometimes I thought it was a cool. I thought it was something very relatable. Sometimes you can hear something from your significant other, but it really doesn't hit home until you hear it from somebody else. It's like, okay, it's not that you don't trust your significant other, but if you just hear it from somebody else that is kind of unbiased, it's like, okay, maybe I was tripping. And what I'm referring to is like, we definitely see a Lala Anthony sighting. So Dom is back on the show, and he clearly, Dom could clearly see that there's something is on Emmett's mind, and he finally tells her that Keisha wants him to talk to to Tiff about them being together, whatever the case is. And Dom had to immediately agree with Keisha. It was like, yeah, that's a mother of your kid, even though you're about to be divorced. That's a mother of your kid. She has the right to know about you and Keisha's relationship. So, hey, that's the adult move, and we definitely see that after Tiff had, she already had a bad day, it seems like. After she had that, I guess, tense run-in or meeting with the Connect, that's shortly after that she gets a call from Emmett about meeting up at Smokey so they could talk about some things. And yeah, he breaks it down to it. And of course, as expected, Tiff isn't, happy about that. Which, well, like I said, that was to be expected. But if you think about it, I don't see the big deal about it. It was like, if you to be fair here, Keisha and Emmett had a thing before Tiff and Emmett anyway. And so essentially he just went back to his ex before him and Tiffany got together. That's how I looked at it. But yeah, and also one thing I did think was what was nice to highlight was how it's like, how can I put it, man? When you're angry, logic just goes out the window. I don't, male, female, whoever. Like when you're angry, logic goes out the window. And sometimes you need someone to just talk you down a little bit. And I felt like, once again, homeboy Iman Shumpert came as a voice of reason for Tiff. Tiff, of course, was upset about hearing about the news between Emmett and Keisha. And, and Iman set it straight with it. Like, hey, we're all adults, man. Let those people be happy if they make each other happy. You can't worry about all that. And I couldn't help but like I said, logic goes out the window, but I couldn't help but just look sideways at my TV when she was like, our divorce ain't even final yet, and he's already, sleeping with Keisha. And it's like, yeah, and you're telling this to the man you've been sleeping with all season, and your divorce ain't final yet. So what are we saying here? So, all in all, man, hey, this has been a great show. I can't wait to see how the season ends. I believe we have a few more episodes. I think it's 10 episodes this season. And oh damn! Before I forget, that one final piece. Rosalind, of course, drops the bomb that there's going to be like a building upgrade that she clearly didn't tell Trig and Tracy about. And here's another example of some of the consequences when you make deals with the devil. All this started because Tracy and Otis, aka Duda, had a relationship. Next thing you know, Rosalind's gonna is taking over some shit. Before you know it, man, Tracy's gonna be without this organization. Tracy is gonna resign or somehow get fired. So she's gonna get booted out somehow of her own organization that she built. Granted, she is kind of doubting herself and feels like she sometimes thinks she builds the organization out of guilt. Ronnie killed the wrong person, which was Coogie. And being that Coogie is killed, that's what got Ronnie killed. And so she feels bad about that whole thing. But so yeah, I forgot about that storyline, but I wanted to drop that piece in there. But folks, these are just my opinions. Love it or hate it. Peace.